Hello everyone, Andrea Rohrer here, and today we are doing a 3-part segment for Sunday brunch, my favorite. We're going to start off with our homemade rosemary buttermilk biscuit sandwiches. Then we're going to move right along to our buttermilk cinnamon French toast, served with pears poached in a port wine reduction. And last but not least, my favorite part, is our cocktail hour. We're going to have guava mimosas, and we're going to serve them with fresh orange segments and a port wine reduction. Now let's get started on our buttermilk biscuits. Let's talk about the ingredients. We have 2 cups of all-purpose self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising flour at your house, just add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder to it. 3/4 cup of milk of buttermilk. You can use skim milk if you're on a diet, I hope not. And last but not least, 1 stick of butter. And I've chopped it up very, very finely because I don't have a mixer. And if you have a mixer, kudos to you, you can use it. But if you don't, like myself, chop it up very small. And last but not least, a few sprigs of fresh rosemary that we're going to chop up very finely. That's it. Finally chop your rosemary so that it really gets infused into the buttermilk biscuits. So let's put all of the ingredients into the bowl except for the buttermilk, our rosemary, our butter cubes, and our flour. And if you want, you can add a little bit of sugar to this. I like mine a little more savory. Totally your call. Our finely chopped rosemary. And we're just going to gently whisk this. We don't want the butter to melt all the way, because if it does, then we won't have that flaky texture. The idea is to keep the butter nice and chilled and really just cut it into the flour. So now that our butter and our rosemary and our flour are integrated, we're going to add the buttermilk until a saggy dough starts to form. Okay? So just sort of gently whisk that together. Let me come in and zoom in on it for you so you can kind of see what's going on. See that? Sort of looks kind of run down and choppy. That's good, that's what we want. And now we're going to lay it out onto our surface. And we're going to knead this dough until it nicely forms and becomes emulsified. Get a little bit of flour. And flour whatever surface you're working with. You don't want it to stick everywhere. Let's get that dough kneaded. Alright, I'm just going to knead it a little bit more into the bowl with my hand before we get it out on that surface. And you want to try and do this as quickly as you can. You don't want that butter to melt too much and just be a part of it. We want to get that flaky texture on those biscuits. Alright, so let's get all of our ingredients out on there. It looks messy. It is, but it's really good. Alright, so let's get that kneading. And you're going to do this for about 2 minutes. Now that our dough is good and kneaded, I'm going to start by rolling it out. Get a little bit more flour out onto your surface. We really don't want this butter to melt and stick all over the place. And we're just going to knead this pretty little piece of dough out into about a little less than 1 inch thick. And then we're going to stamp out some circles. If you don't have something circular, you can use a 1 cup measuring cup. It's perfect for size, for what size you want for these biscuits. So let's get this rolled out. Our dough is nicely rolled out, and now I'm going to start cutting out the circles. Like I said, if you don't have something circular to cut them out with, use a measuring cup. Use a ramekin. Use a regular cup. Use whatever you have that's a circle. It will work. I'm using this just to show you that anything works. And, excuse biscuit fart, stamp out some biscuits and lay them right onto your baking sheet. Super easy. And we're just going to bake them at 400 for about 8 to 10 minutes. If you're not really sure, take a toothpick, poke it real quick, give it the old test. If it comes out nice and clean, it's ready. If it comes out wet, give it 2 more minutes. Our biscuits are good and ready. They're brown, they're crisp, they've rose up just enough, and they'll be perfect for making our buttermilk biscuit sandwiches. For the filling for our buttermilk biscuit sandwiches, I'm going to do a fried egg, some pancetta, some cheddar cheese, and some jalapeno spread. Let's get some eggs frying. And you can do it any way you want when it comes to the eggs. You can do sunny side up, scrambled eggs, poached eggs, whatever your little heart desires. I like the gooiness of an over easy egg fried into my sandwich, so that's what I'm gonna do. And for this to cook a little bit faster, I'm gonna put the lid over it. So I've got my eggs cooking for my sandwiches. Our eggs are frying up nicely. I'm gonna put over a lid so it cooks a little bit quicker, and let's get started on our fried pancetta. Pancetta is a very fatty and delicious cut of pork. This is what it looks like. And I'm gonna fry it up a little bit so it gets nice and crisp for our sandwich. Let's turn those eggs down a little bit. And they're very fatty, like bacon. Well, not as fatty, but you know what I mean. So you don't need any fat into your pan. Just lay them on there. And when you put the pancetta into a cold pan versus a hot pan, it renders a little bit of the fat out initially. So don't worry about having a hot pan on this one, guys. Okay, and I can fit about 3 into the pan, and I'm just gonna let those start to crisp up for our sandwiches. So our pancetta is sizzling, it's getting sexy. I'm just gonna give it a quick flip. And look at that, nice crispy brown edges. We are in business, people. I'm gonna get one more on there for my last sandwich, since they've decided to shrink up and make a little space for the new kid in town. All right. Now that my pancetta is nice and crisp and my eggs are fried, we're gonna get ready to assemble these sandwiches. Our biscuits are nice and crispy, and what I'm gonna do is cut them right down the middle. It's very simple. They're a little flaky, so you wanna be really gentle with them, and you should almost be able to just kind of pull them apart. Very simple. And we're just gonna do that with all of them, and we're gonna assemble these sandwiches. I'm starting the spread for these little biscuits with a jalapeno raspberry jam. If you don't like that, you can use any jam you want. It really doesn't matter. It's totally your choice. You can put butter on these, mayonnaise, ketchup, anything freaky, whatever you like. I'm using raspberry jalapeno jam because I like a little bit of a kick. Next, after our spread, we're gonna put our fried eggs right on top of these little babies. And I like that it has a little bit of an overflow. Don't worry that it's bigger. It's gonna be oozing out everywhere. Yummy and delicious. And now our sharp cheddar cheese, which I've just chopped up in these nice little segments. You can put a couple of them on there. Oh, these sandwiches are gonna be so delicious. And last but not least, our crispy, yummy pancetta. You wanna kind of shake off a little bit of that moisture, or you know what, if you like the juiciness, leave it on. And just place these right on top. And top them. And there you have it. Our little sandwiches. Let's get these onto our nice platter. After all, we are hosting brunch. Have a nice big platter here. And just put these little sandwiches right on there. Easy to grab for everybody. Perfect. And that concludes video 1, our rosemary buttermilk breakfast biscuit sandwiches. Let's move on to our French toast. I hope you're hungry.